When Total War Warhammer 40k has announced its 4 starter factions, people were surprised, especially when it came to the 4th faction, which was the Imperial Guard. And some people were angry about that choice and why it wasn't any of the non-Imperial factions out there people would have wished to see at the beginning of the game. And in this video, we want to take a look exactly at that and why it might have been not a bad choice at all, and why it even makes sense when you think a little bit more about it. But before we do that, we definitely have to take a look at the other factions, or this doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's have a look at the Orcs. The Orcs are pretty straightforward, aren't they? Like, they needed a faction where you can just send in unit after unit. You don't care when orcs are getting wiped out, and you needed something directly in the face of the enemy, which is a bit more melee focused, and where you don't have to think too much about technology. You don't have to choose your fight. Like, you, again, just charge in the middle of the face of the enemy without having to think much. And the Orcs are also a little bit the antagonist poster boys in the Warhammer 40k universe, right? They're everywhere. They are always, or most of the time, involved in something. And a lot of people do recognize when they see an Orc from the Warhammer 40k universe. And again, they are straightforward and they are perfect as a starter faction. Then on the other end of the spectrum, we have the Elder. Very technology heavy, very hit and run tactics. The developers have already said that you want to pick your fights. You do not want to send in unit after unit because you have a limited amount of units you can sacrifice because, well, that's what the Elder are in the lore, right? They don't have billions and billions of Elder they can just throw at the enemy. They have to choose and pick their fights, and hit and run tactics are very much what they are coming up with. And again, they're also very technology heavy. There's a lot of planning involved. So when the Orcs are basically the perfect beginner faction, the Elder are definitely one of the advanced factions in the game, and it makes sense to have them. And Elder are also very often in a lot of the games right from the beginning, so it makes sense to see them here. And then, of course, we have the Space Marines. Okay, real talk here for a second. Has anybody really believed that the Space Marines will not be, like, right from the get-go when the game is releasing in the game? Has anybody believed that? Because if you did, then I don't really know what to tell you. Like, the Space Marines are the poster boys of the Warhammer 40k universe. You can show people just a Space Marine without telling them what this is from, and they will at least say, oh yeah, I've seen them before, right? That is how iconic and recognizable the Space Marines are. And of course, they're in the game. They're always in nearly every game. Like 95% of all the Warhammer 40k games out there has Space Marines right from the get-go in there. So it makes totally sense that they're here too. Also very interesting, the Space Marines are a little bit closer to the playstyle of the Elder. They don't have infinite amount of units, and they want to choose their fights a bit more. Not as crazy as the Elder. They seem to be like a middle ground between the Orcs and the Elder, and again, it makes totally sense that they're here. Now, let's talk about the Imperial Guard, the Adeptus Militarum, and why were they chosen? Well, they needed something similar to the Orcs, right? They wanted to have tons of units you can just throw at the enemy, and you will not really bat an eye when a guardsman dies. So, yeah, they're just doing that. Then, of course, you wanted to have something relatively easy to understand. Not as much as the Orcs. Like, I'm not saying that the guardsmen do not have technology. They do. They have a plethora of tanks, artillery, heavy support units, and, well, air support all over the place. Like, there is quite a bit of units you can choose from. and that makes sense, but they are still very much straightforward. Everyone who is looking at the Imperial Guard will realize very quickly what they are looking at and what they are for. And there is not like a crazy amount of planning involved to pick your fights like you would probably do with the Elder. Now, the playstyle, though, will be very different from the Orcs. As I said, the Orcs are in your face, charge, and they are close to the enemy. The Imperial Guard has none of that really. They don't want to be in close quarter combat because they are just normal humans, and they will probably use mostly range fighter units and tons and tons of artillery. So I'm also very interested to see how trench warfare will actually work in the game, because we have already seen it a little bit, and well, it's very lore accurate, right? The Imperial Guard loves their trenches and loves their World War I tactics, even though they don't necessarily make sense all the time. But I am very interested to see how that looks in the game and how that feels. And again, they needed a faction which fits in between the other factions. And I know people will say, but they could have used the Tau, they could have used the Tyranids. Why not those factions? I think the Tau are very technology heavy and have a lot of like very specialized units. So I would put them more in the direction of the Space Marines and Elder, playstyle wise, while the Tyranids definitely fit more in the just throw a lot of units at it and overrun the enemy. But they are also kind of complicated. Like, I will be honest, after all those years, when I look at Tyranids, I can kind of pick out what I'm looking at and what their purpose is. But I can also see for new players, they're looking at this and they go, wait, what is this thing doing? Is this an artillery piece? No, this is a melee unit. Wait, what? But it has a big cannon. Why is it? Okay, this is weird, right? Like, you needed something people recognize very quickly and understand very quickly from a gameplay perspective. And I think that the Imperial Guard just fits perfectly in this. Send tons of units. You don't care when they die, but you still have your technology aspect at least a little bit before you are going in the more complicated area, which might be the Elder and Space Marines. So would I have loved to see another faction instead of, let's say, the Imperial Guard? Yes, I would. But I also totally understand from a gameplay perspective why they are here and what their purpose would probably be. Now, of course, we can say for sure the next gameplay big reveal is coming in March, which we would definitely check out, and then we would take a look at that. So make sure to subscribe if you want to get updated on that. And also, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like. But that was it from me. I hope you enjoyed it. And with that said, stay safe. Till next time.